The cabin has always been about a place for the family to get away to. It's off-grid and water access, and in the wintertime, we walk in. We're in Ontario, in an area called the Kawarthas. It's an interesting area, sometimes called the Land Between, because it's situated between the St. Lawrence lowlands and the Canadian Shield. We've owned the property for about 7 years, and we've been building the cottage for the past 5. It's really been an interesting journey with my family. The kids have been growing up, working on it. I came up with the initial design based on a clear spot in the woods, an area of bare rock where minimal disturbance was needed to build the cottage. The triple roof system was designed to catch rainwater and divert it to the main roof in the middle. As there's no well on the property, catching rainwater was the only way to get water to it without pumping it from the lake. We decided to attach the building with piers drilled directly into the bedrock. There's very little soil, and this was a very secure way of attaching it. We used a stick framing method because I was familiar with it, having renovated a couple houses, and all the material was brought about 130 feet from the lake edge and about 60 feet in elevation from the lake shore to the building site, by hand up this zip line that we built. In the first summer, we built these 2 platforms. They would serve as the base for the 2 sections of the building.
Are you getting wet?
While we were building the cottage, we stayed in our little bunkie, which is a 10 by 10 structure that we could stay in while we were building, and we had an outdoor kitchen.
Happy birthday to you.
Our task for this summer was to get one side of the building framed in and a roof on. The idea of having 2 sections to the cottage was twofold. One, to allow us to build one section one year and one section the next summer. And 2, to provide the kind of public area on one side and the private bedroom area on the other. Everything came up from the lake originally pulled by hand, but my father-in-law quickly got tired of that and came up with this pulley system. Unfortunately, the roofing was too long to go up that way, so it had to be carried up.
Okay, I'm gonna get you guys putting it down.
As the weather started to get a bit colder, we got all the windows in, the house wrap on, and were able to move out of the bunkie and start spending more time in this first part of the cabin.
Hello?
Hello. I was wondering if you would like to buy some cookies.
Sure.
Okay. After a lot of complaints from people carrying materials up the rock, I decided I better get some stairs installed and make it a lot easier. The problem is you guys see all this stuff and you don't edit. The kids are really learning a lot. They're getting hands-on experience with some stuff that a lot of kids their age would never do. And that really was part of the idea. Work stopped in the winter, but we still went up and had a lot of fun.
Frankie, was it really hot?
No.
No, it's not really hot.
Perfect.
Even though there was no heat in the cottage yet, just having a dry place to go and cook some meals and hang out was really nice.
She holes in ones it. Oh my god.
Well, spring came back and it was time to get back to work. For some of us, anyway.
You're roasting nothing.
We finally got a couple of the windows we ordered and were able to install them this spring. And getting yet another load of lumber that has to go across the lake and up the hill. Everything goes on a barge that we built and gets towed across. Then, at the bottom of the hill, it gets unloaded and loaded onto the lift. Easily half of our workload was moving materials from the landing here across the lake, up the hill to the building site. We probably spent at least 50% of our time doing this. But at least we weren't pulling it by hand anymore. And there was always family on hand to help us out. This was a major upgrade. Hot water. Even though it was a pretty crude outdoor shower, everyone appreciated it after a long day of work. Kids are starting to get a hang of driving the boat. So I finally got the stairs between the two levels together. This is temporary treads for now, but it makes going up and down between the two buildings a heck of a lot easier. We found these cabinets for $50 on Craigslist. They were being torn out of a house that was being torn down. So we scooped them up and brought them across. And like everything else, they got to go up the lift.
Whatever her name is. Oh, I think
Still lots of time to have some fun though.
Go, go, go!
In between weekends, we would put the big tarp on and hope for the best. Although the framing got wet a few times, it was able to dry out. Go, Chef. Still cooking outside.
That one's yours, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. But it's starting to get closed in here in the kitchen area. And by this time we're staying in the first part that we built.
Ah!
One nail. Driven it.
Kids are still learning skills and being allowed to do more and more as we teach them. We had really excellent weather for building the second half. The framing went up pretty quick, and then we got the OSB on the roof.
Now this time, Andrew, you bought just that kind of plywood, didn't you?
Once again, the kids are picking up new skills and getting really in there and involved. What I didn't really appreciate at the time was that building the cottage with the kids really was the best way to establish memories and to make them feel that this was their place as much as ours. My daughter became the expert at loading the lift, and she and I would work on it at the bottom and send it up to my in-laws, my wife, and my son at the top.
Good try.
I'm not very good at this game so
You're
far.
winning by 2 points because Courtney got a hit.
This end of the cottage got quite a bit of work done this weekend. It was finally time for some insulation. The idea is this will be basically a 3-season cottage with some visits in the winter, but never long term when it's cold outside. Looking back, it seems like a ton of work, but we kind of took it in chunks and kept working at it, and it really does pay off. This is us kind of camping out in the first half of the building that we built. Temporary bedrooms, temporary kitchen, but bigger than the bunkie. Now the entire building is dried in and we are insulating the whole thing.
Hello.
Hi.
Lots of critters visited us, mostly outside, but the odd one would get in. We helped them back outside.
Why'd you buy plywood? For the wall.
Now that the second side is also closed in, we're able to spread out and start using all of the interior space. I'm trying to use a lot of materials from the site. So I'm doing some stonework and experimenting and learning. The idea is that eventually I'll encase all the piers in stone. We decided to use rough sawn 1x6 lumber as our interior paneling. It was economical and it provided what we think is a really nice, cozy, warm look.
So it might be disaligned.
Although this seemed to go quickly at times, there was a lot of fussy cutting and it really did drag on. This is the only project that we didn't do ourselves. We had the folks that we bought the glass garage door off of come and install it. It wasn't that expensive and they were willing to make the boat trip across the lake, so we figured why not. We were finally buttoned up and dried in. Starting to bring over some furniture and the wood stove. This winter we'll have a bit of heat. Definitely a welcome addition on a cool fall evening.
Nice fire and insulation.
And me! Stop that, you. Hey,
Pull that screwdriver out. We started with a 100-watt panel and a couple of salvaged batteries as our electrical system. This was enough for a couple lights and the water pump for our water heater.
Hey, team!
Good job. This clip is from 2015. As you can see, the general outline of the structure is complete, and we got to begin working on siding and exterior finishes.
Book it!
The bunkie also got an upgrade at this time, so that my father-in-law and mother-in-law would have a place to stay. As they were up almost every weekend helping us build, I thought it was only fair. Beavers took this tree out, so we had to finish the job, but it did provide some firewood, which was nice. Are you guys trapped? You trapped? After staining it on all 6 sides, we installed our siding vertically. This is called channel siding, and it looks like reverse board and batten almost. These button head nails were really a pain to hammer in, and there were a lot of sore thumbs. This is a view of the backside. It's really starting to come together now.
You need some nails, reach in my poke.
Okay. This one's bad. Fast spot.
Why didn't you help her find him? You weren't smart enough to go through there.
Is certainly a lot bigger than it used to be. We used the same metal that we had used on the roof on the upper portion of the cottage to provide some contrast.
Up to the window.
Gonna hit.
Boo! Boo! Ya lo que dan corriendo.
No.
Spring of 2016, and it's cleaning out the water tank time, and that fell to my daughter this year.
6, are you 7, are you 8, are you 9, are you 10?
Getting bit. Okay.
Hey, get my bigger. This year we were tackling the ceiling, which was a ton of work, lots of little cuts. And we got donated a couch from a neighbor down the lake. I decided to again reuse the tin from the roof in the bathroom as wainscoting.
Is it hot?
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
There you go.
That's big open.
The rest of my
Hey, puppy! This is the type of terrain that our cottage is in. Lots of steep rock falls, waterfalls, little canyons. It's quite beautiful.
Let's try rinsing them.
We built our screen porch in the summer of 2016. This was interesting because it was more of a kind of post and beam structure. We had a lot of fun building it. The floor is Getting the floor and the frame up was the better part of 2 days' work.
I can't really see the level. I can see the level.
This little guy flew in through our garage door and up into my daughter's loft.
Second. Don't scare him.
You didn't have to fake. As usual, we took a break now and again, caught a few, and a few got away. We managed to find this same hole twice.
First and third. Oh my. Stop hitting.
Ya camping para Noah.
No, it's an S to no. Dad, hun.
Go through your startup. You can't drive it because there's no air in the
Come
tire.
here to look at
Go through
Dad.
your startup.
Turn.
This drone shot from 2017 really gives you a good feel for the land. You can see the lake and behind the cabin, the beaver pond.
Oh, yes.
You only did 1 year. This year, my son got the honors of cleaning out the water tank. How's it going in there?
It's cold.
This summer, we also tackled the kitchen. I was able to find these cabinets on Craigslist. For $50, I took them out of a house that was going to be torn down. It took a bit of work and it was a bit of a puzzle, but I was able to fit them in. I also experimented with concrete for countertops, using some of the quartz from the rock in the area. I think it turned out pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll tie it to the front, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Say happy birthday, Canada!
Happy birthday.
Happy
Come on, puppy.
Shake!
Come here, pup.
Why? You're not straight.
Oh god, that's so cool.
2017 was also the year we got civilized. We installed our solar setup with lithium batteries, and now we have lighting and, best of all, refrigeration on site.
Oh. Ah.
No way you're trying.
2018 was about a lot of little projects, and trying not to start any new ones. I built an enclosure for our hot water heater. We wrapped our water barrel with wood to make it look nicer, and we put away some firewood for next winter.
Two is maximum. Then you gotta put them away.
Limit of
You
8.
need some better lyrics. That's how it starts though.
not helping.
We also spent some time improving the trails around our property. I really want to make a loop that goes out beyond the beaver pond. I want to take a sec to thank my father-in-law and my mother-in-law and the rest of my family who helped out. You guys, we could not have made this place without you. Thank you so much for all your help, and it's been a blast. Well, it was finally time to put away the docks for another year. I think we're all pretty happy with the progress we've made over the last few years. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time on Ontario Lakeside.